Hello and good morning. You're watching The Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. I'm Charlie Gibson. If I told you I knew a stock that had gone up 3 times, it had trebled no less than in no less than 6 weeks, you'd probably thinking I was smoking something, tobacco perhaps. Anyway, we have just such a stock here. We've also got the chairman and chief executive of the company. It's Mick Billing, chairman and chief executive of Thor Mining. Mick, welcome back to the show. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So, tell us, how have you done it? Up 3 times in 6 weeks?
Well, I wish I could say it was on the back of my sparkling personality, Charlie, but...
if you've got nothing else, I would go for that.
No, it's been wonderful. We think there's still upside in the share price. We think we're still undervalued, but if someone says if in a period of 6 weeks or so the share price is going to go up by 3 times, you say, terrific, we'll take that. Can we do it again in the next 6 weeks? Well, time will tell.
Well, we're looking forward to it. So, but tell us, what has catalysed this? Because that's a big move by anyone's reckoning in a very short space of time. So what's the news flow that's catalysed that?
I think there's never one thing. There never is. Initially, I think 6 weeks ago, there was a bunch of speculation around the market that we would have to go out and raise some more money. It would be at a tremendous discount to the market, and people were marking us down as a result. Now, we did go off and do a placing. It was at basically 0 discount to the market, and that put that out of the way. Since then, we have, with that uncertainty out, the share price went up a little bit, and then a few of our holders who had warrants exercised those warrants, and we've had since that placing another £1 million come in by way of warrant exercise, and that has snowballed, I guess, the confidence level of some of our holders and some other investors. In fact, we went out to the market a couple of weeks ago and said, with all this money coming in, we don't think we're going to need to raise money again to see us through till the end of 2018, and because we've done our budgets, we've looked at the things we want to do, and said, well, yes, we're pretty well fully funded for those activities. Having said that, yes, the market got hold of it again and took it along a little bit. We've also done some technical stuff. It's not just on the back of the finances being good, so let's get going. At Molly Hill, we have talked about the fact that we've got some quite good improvements in the test work on Allsorting, and that's meant that a much larger portion of the low-grade material that we were going to mine and perhaps put in the waste stockpile can now form part of the ore reserve and go through the circuit when we start mining that. So we're doing an upgrade to our ore reserve right now. We believe that will be complete and out into the market in the next few weeks. We've told the market we're doing that. We've told the market that the results are much better than they were previously. All of those things are said to people, our investors, who have supported us, and we're very grateful for that. Right now we're in a pretty good place, and that's where they want some of their money to be.
Okay, there are a couple of things there. I'm going to come back to the technical side in a minute, but just on the financing side, and I assume you said you've now financed through to 2018, and you've raised a couple of million, or 1 million placing and then 1 million from warrant exercise, was that right?
Not quite, about just under £600,000 in placing, and then roughly $1 million in warrant exercise.
And you probably had a bit in the bank, so are you burning at about £2 million a year, roughly?
Of that order.
Of that order.
Of that order, perhaps a little under. And if we were to do absolutely nothing and stand still, we would burn much less than that, of course. But if we were standing still, all our investors would depart in droves. So there's enough in the budget to achieve some things at a project level that we think we want to do, and as well as cover the fixed costs of running this place, which is, that's not a bad place to be in right now.
Very definitely not. Now, the other side of that is, or connected with that, is are there any more levels at which any more warrants look likely are in the money and are therefore likely to be exercised?
Charlie, if all our warrants were exercised, and I hasten to say that I don't expect they all will, but they are all in the money right now.
And that, how much money could come in as a result of that?
Another couple of £1 million.
All right, so that would potentially, and if you say they're all in the money, theoretically, if we're logical investors, they should be exercised, unless, of course, you think they're going up further and you want to get the gearing. Nevertheless, you might have another year's worth of funding there as well, potentially.
It's possible, and certainly if all of that money did come in, well, that would give us options to do things that currently we don't have, and if we can do those things without having to go back to shareholders and pass a hat around, all that sort of stuff, if those things aren't necessary or are minimised because you do have a little bit of a war chest. And once again, Charlie, that's a very good place to be.
Now, this ore sorting, tell us about it, because there's ore sorting and ore sorting, isn't there? What is the nature of this ore sorting that is suddenly allowing you to make all these technical changes in terms of your reserve and your resource and your the processing circuit that you're ultimately looking at?
Charlie, we with ore sorting, and ore sorting has been part of our flow sheet for several years. We have always until now sorted what we would call average run-of-mine grade ore, about 0.3 or to 0.4% WO3, which is essentially tungsten, and got quite consistent results out of that, and an upgrade of 20-30%. We marked it down a little bit because one of those results were a little bit lower, so it became around 20 to 25% upgrade. More recently, we've done some test work on some quite low-grade ore to see if that would give us a higher upgrade factor than with the higher grade material. It should, but you have to demonstrate that it did. And yes, it came back with more than the 40% upgrade in the ore. In fact, kicking out more than 40% of the material before it gets into the most expensive part of the plant to build and to operate is a very good thing to do. Now that meant that low-grade ore or low-grade material becomes ore very quickly and quite cheaply.
And so does this mean, so you're then going to put out a revised resource statement then on the back of that?
No, the resource is unchanged. We should be able to put out a revised reserve, which means we've taken through all the process of saying it's not just there and we know about it, it is economic, and it means you've got to take into account your costs of doing things, the recovery factor, all that sort of stuff, and we believe as a result of that we should be able to drop the pit a little bit lower. And there is some potential, and it's a little bit early to tell yet, that with this revised scenario with the ore upgrade, maybe there is a potential for going underground at the end of the open pit life. And that's, again, a very, very good thing to do for Molly Hill.
So what are the next steps? Is it to do a feasibility study on the basis of the new metallurgy?
Well, if we're going to upgrade the ore reserve, that is a step to upgrading the...
What's the timing on the ore reserve?
I would hope before Christmas.
Okay, nice Christmas present for shareholders.
Well, hopefully it doesn't come out on the 24th of December because nobody will really care by then. But I certainly will. Yes, we're going to update the ore reserve, and that is a part of upgrading our definitive feasibility study. The rest of the work on the feasibility study will take a little bit longer. We're going through some... We're re-estimating some of the capital costs of doing things and revisiting some of the operating costs, but we have recognised some savings, and we've published those savings in the past. And that is contributing towards the upgrade in the ore reserve that we think will be out in the next 3 weeks or so.
Worth noting, I suppose, also that the tungsten price actually has been relatively robust of late, hasn't it? So to some extent following the oil price?
It has. tungsten price went up, has gone up quite aggressively this year. It has eased back a little bit from September, but it's had a bit of a breather, and now looks like it's nudging back up a little bit once again. Let's hope it stays that way.
But the overall feeling is a sort of a reasonably positive one, I think. About it. It's one of those it's one of those metals where there's a reasonably positive feeling amongst investors, and that gives you a following wind, so to speak.
There is indeed, and there are a number of tungsten hopefuls like us out there now looking for project finance, and I attended the International Tungsten Industry Association annual get-together in late September, and there was a much more buoyant mood there at that meeting than there has been for the previous couple of years. That's a good thing.
We've talked to Molly Hill at some length. Any news from Pilot Mountain?
Yes, indeed. Pilot Mountain, we've done a lot of good things this year. We've upgraded the resource estimate, and we could continue to explore and improve the resource size for several years, and it will end up being quite a large resource. But we believe we've got more than enough to start working on feasibility and to start permitting a mining operation. We're starting scoping study work on that about now. There's a lot to do, but we think we've got to the stage where it's a series of deposits of enough quality on sufficient size to mine for 15, 20 years or thereabouts. Let's stop mucking around with exploration. Let's get on with the things that will move it towards production.
Well, we look forward to that very much indeed. Mick, thank you very much indeed. I've just got one more question for you, and it's a prediction for the Ashes.
Well, Australia have won the first test.
You noticed that?
I did. There was a decision that went the Australia's way. I looked at the replay. I couldn't pick it one way or the other. The next test is in my hometown in Adelaide. I probably won't make it, unfortunately, but I think Australia will win. The home ground advantage is huge in Ashes.
Mick, we will wait and see. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mick Billingsley, Chairman and Chief Executive of Thor Mining. I'm afraid that's all we got time for. It just goes to show you should never ask a miner about cricket. It's rugby that matters. We'll be back next week, and until then, this is me, Charlie Gibson, signing off for The Mining Show, brought to you by Blytheway on Core Finance. And until next week, well, we'll be bringing you more companies, hopefully, that have gone up 3 times in the last 6 weeks, and, well, maybe perhaps they could do it again. Who knows? Until then, you have a capital day.